Fox News host Tucker Carlson had to prematurely end an interview he hosted on Tuesday night, after his guest heavily criticized former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin for using excessive force when he killed George Floyd. Carlson invited ex-corrections officer Ed Gavin on Tucker Carlson Tonight, but seemed caught off guard by Gavin's scathing criticism of Chauvin. Carlson, who often interviews guests that share his perspective, began the interview by asking, "Who's going to be a cop now, do you think?" "I think people will still become police officers. This really is a learning experience for everyone," Gavin said, before pivoting to condemn Chauvin's violence, stating, "Let's face it, what we saw in that video was pure savagery. I've used force on literally over 500 people in my 21-year career in the New York City Department of Correction and in the New York City Sheriff's Department. I've never had anyone go unconscious. That was clearly unjustified use of force. I think the verdict was just. I think we had documentary evidence, we had testimonial evidence, and it was an open and shut case. Moving forward, we need to." Carlson, whose face was fixed in his signature, serious thinker, frown, appeared to panic and interrupted Gavin, in an attempt to push the conversation in a different direction. "How about enforce the law? Do we need to do that?" Carlson asked. "Slow down, do we enforce the law? Let's say people are going through the window at Macy and the cops are just standing there, do they resign? When do they start doing something about it and protect everybody else, not just George Floyd? I want police to protect people," Gavin patiently explained, "but specifically what we're dealing with here, we're dealing with a person in custody, who is handcuffed, he was subdued. At that point, we have to take a different tact. One of the things I'm trying." Carlson interrupted again, perhaps having realized that Gavin wasn't going to endorse Carlson's ideology, and in fact, was coming dangerously close to exposing Fox News viewers to a reasonable perspective. In response, Gavin reiterated that Chauvin had indeed used excessive force on George Floyd, which visibly flustered Carlson. Carlson quickly interrupted Gavin to say, "Yeah, but the guy that did it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, so I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up." Carlson then attempted a cynical chuckle, but his nerves betrayed him. Carlson instead let out a manic shriek of forced laughter, which has already been immortalized into a meme. Carlson hastily ended the interview, cutting off Gavin before he could finish his sentence. This isn't the first time Carlson has sought to end an interview that made him look silly. An infamous exchange with historian Rutger Bregman ended in humiliation, as Bregman called out Carlson for his phony economic populism.